Right, it's recording, Steve, so we can go.
Oh, excellent. Welcome to the Bang Average Parents podcast, where two men talk about being bang average parents. My name is Steve, and this is Sid.
Hi there. That didn't sound scripted at all,
No,
to be fair.
No, it didn't. I mean, really, once the introduction is over, I've got nothing. I'm out.
It's just funny because we were just talking for about, 20 minutes, completely unscripted, sounded great. And then as soon as I hit record, you've gone, and welcome to the Bang Average podcast.
If we're going to listen, I'm a trained professional. As soon as that, record button goes, I'm all professional. No friendships here.
Did we actually decide on the name then? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Why not?
Subject to change.
Yeah, we can put that as like a, may change at any point down the line sort of thing, for sure.
Last time we did try to record this, it was a different name.
Yes.
It wasn't the Bang Average Parents podcast. It was the M8-ing podcast. And next week it will be something else, so stay tuned.
We like to keep things agile and smooth and, as flexible as possible to... yeah, exactly.
Had to chuck in the word agile there, didn't you? You were chucking DevOps as well.
Yeah, well, I can't help it. I've just been absolutely ruined by my career. Charlotte calls me out on it all the time. She's like, why do you talk like you're writing an email? It's like, dear Charlotte, when I walk into the room, what's for dinner? Kind regards, Steve. It's really weird.
Do you put a subject line in there as well?
Yeah, I have to. I often sign on birthday cards with my signature at the end, so it's like Steve Bashley, director of whatever.
Well, to be fair, if this podcast takes off, that signature or that greeting card or whatever might actually be worth something in the future. So.
Yeah, and listen,
who knows?
Yeah, and inevitably she'll leave me after discovering the content of this podcast. So we'll have to see how it goes, I suppose.
Right.
So
it's a different conversation. We'll save that for another.
Yeah, save that for another one for sure.
Another podcast.
The trauma of my relationship. That's a separate podcast.
Do you want to tell people a little bit about why we're here and why we're here?
Why we're here and why we're here. Okay, sure. So I guess from my perspective, we've been friends a long, long time, bordering on 15 years, whatever it is, and that's a long time in my book. And the whole parenting thing to me, it only became a reality when I met Charlotte, which was when I was 26. And essentially when, we'll go into more details later on, but when the reality sort of struck and I started reaching out to, social media and friends and family, that most of the feedback I got and advice was very, it was either one of two, there's two sides of the coin. It was either really kind of Disney movie, everything's the best thing ever, or everything is going to ruin your life. There was a lot of that, and I found a lot.
It's not wrong.
Yeah, basically everything I found was wrong.
The latter.
Everything was wrong almost. And you could go online and Google today top 10 things that a dad should know, and I reckon I disagree with most of them. And
it's all useless.
And I understand that most of my friends were in a very similar boat. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I think if we openly talk about it, I think that at least gives some people a solid foundation of generally normal people. We're not doctors, and we're not sort of people who have always wanted kids and the best thing ever. There's got to be a middle ground there. That's where I'm coming from.
100%. I think you also just mentioned something there, right? The reason why we're doing this isn't to give advice or anything like that. It's to share our experiences, right? And I'm in the same boat. Well, we've obviously had this conversation off air, and this is why we're obviously here today. But it's a similar sort of experience. When I've got two kids, one is 3.5, and one's coming up to 1, boy and a girl. And I think we never, when it came around to having the discussion around having our children, it was well, okay, I don't even know what that means. Even to the point of I know we'll go into this later, but when Sam names, but name drop, when my other half said that obviously she was pregnant, I was like, okay, what does that mean? Like, I'm not physically growing a human. It's such a weird concept. And you obviously see online, right? You see so much nonsense online on across different social medias around people. And maybe to some degree they are genuine, right? But a lot of it is so fake. And when it comes to also looking for like information, I was like, it's very similar to you. I was like, this is not the information well, here's the thing, right? You don't know that's not information you don't need until you've had a child, and then you're actually there,
exactly.
right? So the prep before, and then I was like, once you've got a child, I was like, looking back, that information I was looking for and what I used was nonsense. Everything just went out, like, through the manual out the window. And I know, there is no. Some people say there's no like defined manual to being a parent, right? And I totally agree with that, because every child is different and every parent different and everyone's circumstances are different, right? And you've just got to do what you need to do to survive. I think that's the bottom line. But I think I wish there was, throughout my experience, 3.5 years of being a father, I wish there was content similar to hopefully what we would be creating here that I could listen to and go, oh, actually, it's not just me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I do that all the time. Do I need to feel guilty for that? Or I can't be the only person thinking this, or I can't be the only person to go through and experience that. You've obviously got some really, I'm not going to say tragic, but you've got some stuff that's very deep. I can't think of the bloody
Personal,
word.
real word you're after. Yeah.
That's the word.
You're such a wordsmith.
This is why I shouldn't be doing this podcast.
No, aren't you insane?
I can't. No, I am, but I do the same thing. I just insert word here.
Yeah, just to interrupt on a point there, because I think something that you hit on was that, like, I can't be the only one thinking this. Like, I genuinely believe that with, like, same with social media, where you have this kind of Facebook lifestyle, I also think that there's, again, like a load of people who like pretend everything's great and that and it's like it's the best thing ever, whilst inside they're like, I'm actually really struggling with all this. And it's like, you're not allowed to do that sometimes. I think there's that side, but then there's also
you're not allowed. Well, you get judged.
Referring to earlier, where it's like everything is awful, and things that exist, like, you have postnatal depression, and I get that, and some people aren't built necessarily to be parents, or like are slower at learning in some areas than others. Like, I remember in the early days sitting on my sofa and just sobbing like a baby because I just didn't know what to do. And I have no problems admitting that, but I bet you a ton of people will either, like, they'll expand on that so much and that's all it's like, and say, well, oh, this is so blah blah blah, or it's like, whoa, you shouldn't be like that. So actually, you can be like that, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
100%. I think it comes down to what I mentioned earlier around where you are in life, right? Because there are some people, you had a good life, or you had a good life. Your life's over now, right? It's written off since you've had kids.
It's terrible now. Yeah.
No, is that you sort of enjoyed those freedoms before you had a child, and I think there's always these two ends of that scale, right? I know some of the best parents I know, and this is not a recommendation at all, right? I don't think kids should ever be used in a situation where you go, oh, my life is bad, I'm going to have a kid to make it better. But some of the best parents I know are actually people that have maybe not had the freedoms that maybe you and I have had, and actually having a child has given them purpose, and they've bloody nailed it as parents. And you're going, wow, I didn't know you had that in you. That's amazing. You see them develop, you see them change, you see them become adults, and you see their love for their child. I think the other end of the scale is that, which people don't openly talk around, is if you've lived a pretty comfortable life, right? Your flexibility, your freedoms, your holidays, you're going out every weekend. If you do that and then you have a child, I think there is a much. I know this sounds extremely privileged, right? It's a privileged point, but I think there's a lot of people that would go, I miss that freedom. I miss it so much. And they're like, well, what do I do now? My child, I'm at home now with my screaming child I don't know what to do. It won't be quiet. And their whole life gets flipped upside down because they've had all this freedom before. Is where the other end of the scale is that they've gone, well, I had nothing before, and now I have a purpose. You know what I mean? I think there's that element to it as well. So you get a lot of people that are sort of react in different ways. I mean, I can empathise with both, right? I can empathise with both because prior to having my children, I was like, well, there's loads of things I want to do in life, but
You were
I never
that
actually
guy,
had the
100%. You were that
Mhm.
guy that was like trying to get everyone out as much as possible, and wanted to do
100%
1,001
every
things.
weekend.
I was not surprised because you and Sam were so rock solid, but like, and still are, by the way. It was
No, were correct, were
now we're
yes.
crumbling, crumbling.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know. She's going to find out.
If this is the way you're breaking it to her. Yeah, like you guys are so slow, but I guess
It's
I was
over.
surprised that you guys when let's have a kid. I thought that was earlier than I thought it would have been for you guys. Um,
Oh, I completely agree, and this is when it comes to, and obviously we've got so much content that we're obviously going to talk about, because obviously when, like, how people react when they first get told they're
yeah,
pregnant and stuff like that, and it was very much that. It was like we've been together a while, I think a cushy amount of time, so what, 5.5 years or something,
mhm.
living in a one-bed house, and it was like, should you have a kid? Yeah, why not? Why not? What's the worst that can happen?
You have a
Right?
kid.
Financially, yeah, little did we know. Oh, naive 25-year-olds. Um, but now, like, we're in, like, and I just want to make this very clear, right? There is no, for me personally, there is no better feeling than seeing something, or there's no better reward than seeing something where you put your effort into something right in front of you and you see it manifest and grow and develop, and all your characteristics that you've imprinted on that child and stuff like that, they start to shine through that, and it's walking in front of you, right? So there's no better and no greater feeling. How the realities of that and the hard work of that is, again,
Mhm.
is the stuff that hopefully we'll cover a lot in this podcast, because again, even today we had a lovely day out, and then 2 hours of meltdowns from both kids. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I've got heartburn right now. I get heartburn every day because of just stress levels. I'm 32. I shouldn't be having heartburn. I've got a bottle of Gaviscon right next to me, just to neck in
That's how
case
you know.
it gets
Because
too
let's
bad.
face facts. What is it? It's Saturday, nearly 5 p.m. Rewind 10 years. That would be a bottle of vodka.
Oh,
That would not be a bottle of Gaviscon.
I mean, little do you know, I've got a bottle of vodka next to the Gaviscon.
So you
So,
just mix them out.
Steve, I've not changed, mate. I've got a bottle of shampoo. I mean, other brands are available.
Yeah.
you know.
Oh God. But no, like
But yeah,
yeah, I get what you mean, and it's weird. And again, I know we've been very general at this stage, but um, I've had essentially since day one this knot of, and it's not like I'm trying to explain it not in a horrendous way because it sounds bad, but it's not. It's like a knot of worry in my stomach since day one. Where no, I know
go see a
you probably
doctor.
should go to a doctor. Yeah, I just need to leave now on a totally unrelated matter. But no, I have like this knot of worry because it is just like you're always looking around, like where are they? What's going on? And like we went out for dinner last night, and I just instinctively sometimes just turn my head, like expecting to see him like behind us because he's around us all the time. Oscar's my little boy, by the way. He's 2. I haven't introduced that properly. Um, so yeah, it is a different world, and I mean, on the flip side, again, you've just nailed a perfect example of the goods and the bads in the sense that I cannot wait to see him in the morning. Like, I cannot wait. It is so
Yeah,
awesome, especially now he's 2. The first words he generally says is either mummy or daddy. And like,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, sometimes when he says mummy, I'm like, yes, because I get to stay in bed for another 10 minutes. But when he says daddy, like, you can't, your heart just melts. You
yeah,
cannot
yeah,
not
yeah,
get up and go and
yeah.
see him. But then on the flip side, we drove home with him in the car. He fell asleep. He woke up and he was absolutely furious. And he was just shouting, "Oh no," at me. Like, "Oh no." And I'm just like, "Oh God,
Yeah.
what have I done? I'm a terrible parent. I can't even keep my own kid happy." So, yeah, there's the ups and downs. And it's just like life, right? Not to get too philosophical too early, but like you generally only ever remember the really low points or the really high points, right? You never remember
100%.
the moments you
Well,
go to the gym, or you never remember the days at work. You just remember the really good points and the really bad points.
I mean, that's you mentioned that earlier, right? And I think it's such a relevant point because that's all people talk about. It's either look at my kids, look at my kids, look at my kids. We're so amazing, and I know them personally. I'm like, your life isn't like that. Who are you
Yeah.
kidding? Or it's the other end where they're typically very miserable and they talk about how bad their life is. And I don't know many people like that, but I have encountered a couple of people that just go, my life's pretty bad. You know what I mean? You're going, oh God, it's always doom and gloom. It's never like, I mean, when we talk about our kids, what do we say? How's the family? Yeah, they're all right. That's as far as it goes. We never
Yeah.
probe. Like I've known you 18 years. I know Oscar's what two, and
I know
we
Oliver's
never, we
like
never, we.
5, and you're like,
I know you're, yeah, I know you're,
whatever your name is,
but
Bill.
I like we personally as friends for a long time. I've never gone, how was your kid today? How did that? Because why would we, right?
Yeah.
We're friends, but it's one of those things that you never really have a good conversation with you about how your day and how was it. It's just always goes, yeah, he was fine, or yeah, he was all right, or yeah, he was a bit annoying, and then we move on to what we're doing this
Yeah,
weekend or whatever.
you're
I would,
spot on. And
that stuff.
and what nails this is that when, especially when like kids are born, for example, or when I go and see you, Charlotte, who's my wife, always asks questions like, "Oh, do you know the way?" or "How's Zach?" and I'm just like, I actually don't know the answer to any of those questions because I didn't ask.
Yeah,
And especially, and
yeah,
it's such a blooming cliche, but men in general just don't talk about this stuff. Like we just don't
hmm.
like, and the only people, even with you, like the only people I could say I've sort of more openly talked about it with are the blokes I did NCT with,
Yeah.
and I'm very lucky because I know most people say NCT wasn't particularly worth it, but I'm very lucky with the group we had because I still talk to them. But I think that's different because it's a manufactured, like synthetic
You
group
ch-
of people with really, when you first start, your only thing in common is you have kids. Therefore, you have nothing else really to talk about predominantly.
But I just, that's that. I mean, again, not to get philosophical. I think we're going to get very
We
philosophical
might
by
rename
the
this
end of
the
this.
Philosophical Parents
But if you,
Podcast.
but it's not like I completely understand the scenario, right? You're all in the same boat, and you're all in the same scenario, and you're all a little bit nervous and apprehensive, and you've all got something to talk about, and you're all in that same boat. But that's a life lesson across the board, right?
Yeah,
It's like you walk past people in the street and you might say hello, but you never really have a stop and have a really good conversation, especially if you're in like busy cities and stuff like that. You go abroad, right, on your own, you'll go in and make friends and have conversations with
yeah,
absolutely everyone and everyone because you're sort of forced to. But actually, people are typically receptive of that, and people will like openly have a conversation with you. But it's only until you're forced to do it do you do it. Outside of those situations, you typically just never engage with people, and I think that's such a weird concept
yeah,
to sort of have because you should be able to stop by in the street and say, "Hello, mate. How you doing? You from around here and stuff like that." You might not always get on with these people, but if you were out on holiday abroad and there's a load of randomers, you'd be like, "You're right, mate. Yeah, can I get you a drink? Yeah, of course you can," sort of thing. Or if you're in an NCT class, you'll be chatting to everyone, going, "Oh God, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know what to expect, and how far along is she, and all of these things."
I do think that's a
Anyway,
culture
I
thing. Sorry to interrupt. I think that's a culture thing though, because in England there is this like invented urgency around like everything is urgent. Like, God, I've got to get to the post office. You're like, do you have to get to the post office like right now in the next 10 minutes? I
Mhm.
don't think you do. Like
The world will
it
end.
comes.
The, wo-
Sorry.
the world will end.
Yeah, hopefully. But like it is that. It's like, and it comes from most people's works, I imagine. It certainly comes from mine. Like even when I make lunch for myself, I'm doing it at 100 miles an hour. Like why am I doing that? I just calm
Well, of
down.
course.
Like, it's just
Did you-
chaos, and I don't like. And
yeah.
it comes from that our social. There's an element of social distance because we feel we don't have the time to talk about these things in any great length. It has to be like this. Oh, let's arrange a night or an evening in 3 months. We don't just pick up the phone and have that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think we're going to go way off topic here, Steve. So you should probably bring it back slightly because I was going to start talking about COVID and whatnot when you said about
Oh,
social
okay. Yeah,
distancing.
yeah,
So
that's fair. Don't talk about COVID. I feel like that's a done subject for now.
no, no, no. All I was going to say. Oh, I'm going to say it now because obviously we're live recording. But all I was going to say is that social interactions got worse since then. Obviously, there's a lot of people that will struggle even more because they've not had as common social interactions. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say
Okay.
on that matter.
Well, I'm really
Anyway,
glad you said
let's.
that. That was so. Thank you.
I'm actually going to put that as like the thumbnail of this a little
Yeah.
little voice clip, unrelated to actually having children, having kids.
Yes. So
But
should we?
one of the things that were oh,
Oh God. Go.
one of the things I do want to obviously speak about is and again we briefly touched upon it earlier, but around the concept of, did you always want to be a father, or were you just sort of yeah, let's have a go, that sort of thing? It's a question. There was a
Oh, you
question.
are asking me that question. I thought you were asking it to
Yeah.
yourself, and then we're going to answer. And that's right.
Well, I was hoping that you would answer it, and then again, Steve, we've not had these conversations,
No,
right? So this is new for us. This is new
no.
territory. So
It's
again, I want to find out. But I know the complications that you went through and stuff with your child. But it's like when growing up, in my head, there was never a right time to go, yeah, I actually would really like to be a dad. I was like, I'm loving life at the moment. I've not even thought about it until that one week. Like, we'd make jokes about it, and then it would be like, why not?
yeah. It's
What,
like the
what,
most
what does
empty
that mean?
statements. Well, so to answer your question officially, and I can back it up in writing if you need.
You sign it, please.
Sorry, it comes back to the signature again. I genuinely, I didn't think I was going to want or have kids when I was growing up. When I say and to put some scope on growing up, between the age of like, I don't know, 12 and 21, like I didn't think I was going to, because one, every time I seemed to engage with a child in any way, I'd be like, oh God, you find you really irritating. That's number one. Two, obviously, between the ages of 12 and 21, I was probably a bit of a prick and just looked after you. You just look after yourself, don't you? Like, you don't even think about the bigger picture.
Barely, barely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just existing. Barely even
Yeah.
looked
So
after
you don't
yourself,
have
Steve.
any idea what's going on. So, like, but growing up, no, it wasn't something. Whilst I know some other people were like, I've always wanted a family. I'm like, oh, good for you. But even even going through my 20s, like as you said, like I was having a really good time. Like I love my work. Like I spent a lot of time with that. I had a good friendship group. It wasn't something. I suppose what maybe contributed to that is that I didn't have a lot of like relationships. It's like I had like one, like I had like one girlfriend growing up, and that was only for a short period of time. So like maybe I didn't have that kind of insight into what a long-term relationship would look like and building a future with someone. I only met Charlotte when I was 26, and even then, and we had the conversation very early. Even then, I was like, I suppose I'd leaned out of the zone of I'm pretty sure I don't want kids to. If it was the right set of circumstances, maybe that was where my head was at. And Charlotte kind of.
Your
Oh, sorry, go
sorry.
ahead. You have questions?
No, I was going to say your circumstances are slightly different though, because you had outside, and again, just correct me if I'm treading too much. I'm not going to say anything that hopefully you don't want me to say, but you have outside things that make help factor in those decision making process, right? It's not. And again, I'll allow you to talk about this a bit later if you're comfortable to talk about it. But unlike me and Sam will go, shall we just try and have a go when we're ready? Your whole situation isn't as straightforward as that, right? It's like it's either now or maybe never sort of thing, and that's going to impact you quite a lot, right?
Yeah,
In terms
and
of your decision
I
making.
suppose that's the kind of the next stage of that conversation was, again, we met, and I think it was on within the first 5 dates, not quite the first one, where so Charlotte is 5 years older than me, so she was 32, 31 at the time. And I for a start, I totally get the body clock complex, especially on a woman's side, where it's like I don't want to be a particularly old mum, or there is time, and I fully get that. And it was something I knew when we first started dating. I was like, this is something that I have to bear in mind. And to your point, Charlotte knew that she couldn't have children naturally. We know that it wasn't a thing we could just, start trying ourselves and go from there. We would have to go down the IVF route, and that was like, we knew that straight away. So good. And like, it's one of the many reasons why I love her, because she's just so honest with everything. And she laid her cards on the table and said, this is my situation, I do 100% want a family, and this is the route we would have to go down. And obviously what complicates that is because it's not just like, it's full of IVF cycle. You have to go and get egg donation and get the tons of tests done, and all that fun stuff. And I suppose what layers on the complication is, early in a relationship, you typically don't start talking about having kids. But when you're a few weeks in, and it's like, we already need to start thinking about where this is going at some stage. And obviously it wasn't that aggressive. I think it was it was a good year in the end before we started going, right, we need to start making appointments, because we knew that this would take 3 years. We knew it would take
Even
that
then,
long. And even for a lot of men I know, if you start even talking about kids within the first 6 months, they're like, this is
I'm out.
I'm out. This is not for me. And it was only because there was this genuine instant connection between us, was the only reason I was like, no, let's keep giving this a try. And I don't, obviously there's no regrets whatsoever. But yeah, it was so yeah, that's sort of the story behind it. Like, and even throughout the pregnancy, I was just like, God, is this really the right call? Obviously it's too late by then, but and I just think that natural anxiety is there. And I think certainly because it took 3 odd years to get to that stage, I think what helped me prepare more was that there was no kind of, oh, I'm pregnant. There's no surprise to it. It was all, there's a test that we know we have to do on this particular day. We've had a long time to go through all this process. So I think that kind of helped me. It's very strange how this genuinely very frustrating, expensive, thing is certainly awful for Shah, because she's the one that has to go through all the tests. She's the one that has to go through, all that pain emotionally as well. And it sort of, in a way, it kind of helped me with any kind of anxiety I had. And obviously it's, almost from day one, as soon as you see them, you're just like, this is so cool. Like, it's so surreal. It's so cool. And any kind of dread I had about having kids in the first place genuinely died on day one. The other side of that is the new wave of anxiety around trying to keep it alive then presented itself. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it.
I think it's mad. It's mad. And obviously as a friend, I know the personal stress and emotional roller coaster that you and both Charlotte have been on throughout that process. But I think, and as you said, Charlotte is a bloody saint, without a doubt, for laying the cards on the table early, but also having to go through that is super, super challenging. But from sort of your perspective, and again, I really don't want this to come out as a like overlooking Charlotte in any way, shape, or form, but your feelings throughout the whole process would surely just be on hold, right? Just be, it doesn't matter necessarily, apart from the saying, yes, I want to partake in this thing, is that there's a big decision for you to be made there, right? So your life is basically, you want to go on this journey with Charlotte, and you have to commit. But it's, as you said, 6 months to a year into a relationship. If Sam started saying, I want a kid, I'd be out of there, Steve. I'd be out of there and saying, no, I want to go in and do the certain things I want to do. I don't know whether I'm ready, that sort of stuff. So yeah, tough, extremely, extremely tough.
Yeah. I guess where am I? I was about to say I'm a bit of a bore because I don't really like holidays that much and things like that. But I suppose I genuinely feel that I've always been a bit more mature than my age. Like, I'm a bit of an old man stuck inside a young man's body.
You do know I know you, right, Steve?
Yeah. Oh, I can't con you, can I suppose? Well, either way.
You can con the audience. That's fine.
Okay, all right. I'll continue the lie, and you just go along with it.
Continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so really mature. Cool.
Oh, please do continue.
So,
I'd love to see where this
but
is going.
like like so when I wasn't taken aback. I was like, well, let me think about this methodically, and if I really like slash love this woman, who am I to stand in the way? And you're right. Your feelings don't go on hold, but they you I
Putting them
suppose
before you're putting theirs before yours, right?
and to a degree, yeah. I think the way I looked at it is that my love for her was so much more than like any decision not to have children, for example, or not to get married as well. Because marriage was something I wasn't that bothered about, but it's like she wants it. Well, I love you more than my will not to have
Yeah.
kids, and not to get married, and that trumps anything. So, like, so yeah, it's like it's yeah, your feelings do go on hold to a degree, but again, she was just awesome at getting my take on things, making sure I'm cool with it. It wasn't like she just had, this is my agenda, get on board or get out of my way. Like there wasn't that at all. It still felt like a very open, transparent, honest relationship. But to your point, you're not the one having all this stuff done to you, and all these tests and all this, like you have to go through counseling session, to make sure you're all on board with the whole approach, and that was tough. And yeah, so yeah, it's fun. What about your side anyway?
It's one of
Walk me through that.
yeah. We just did
You
it,
just
and that
did
was
it.
it, Steve.
You just did it.
No, it's not that straightforward. It's
We
never
did it
that
twice.
straightforward. And same day, so yeah, it was.
As if you'll do it
No,
twice in the same day. Um,
I was planning on posting this in LinkedIn, Steve, or something, some other place to try and keep it professional. And now I don't think we
I
can. Um,
don't think you can.
no, so with us, yeah, we've been together probably about 5.5 years. No, 4.5 years, because again, it took us about 9 months, 10 months to even conceive, to even have um, Zach.
Took you nine
So it took
nine
us a
months of
long time
trying.
of trying, yeah. And again, there's a whole. Oh wait, sorry, dog.
He's shutting Zach out of the room. He's, lovely, Daddy.
Oh, I love you. Oh, it's my dog. It's just poking his head round, and then there's kids out there. Yeah, no. Yeah, it took us 9 months of trying, and again, do people? His again, it's a stigma, right? There's no stigma around like close friends, group of friends, but sort of that group outside of your close friends. So outside of you and my brothers, you tell people it took you like 9 months of trying, and every day people would be like, what's the problem? And I'll be like, you don't know the stressful impact that it actually causes, and the friction, and seeing your partner get upset because it's not happening. And then, you know, as much as guys say, having it every single day isn't, well, having it every single day, if
Every day.
it's so different. It's so different when you're trying to conceive or trying to have a baby, because it becomes like, right, this time after dinner or whatever like that, and you're like, I've come home from work, I just want to relax. And again, I think there's a whole segment here we could talk about, because I find this really interesting, because there's the general conception that every single person is going to get pregnant the first time they have sex unprotected, right? They're like, oh, you're going to get pregnant. Every single person that I know, you're obviously an exception because you obviously had to go through IVF. But my brothers, I think it took my brother. Oh no, so two brothers. One of them it took over a year, about a year, and I know that had stressful implications on their relationship, a lot more than you'd. And obviously, that transparency piece is absolutely key, but there's stress on both sides, and it does cause massive friction. Cause friction between me and my partner when we started trying, and it wasn't happening. It was like, why? And then we were nearly at the process of, I think I was booked in to go for some tests and stuff, and then it happened. Thank God, after around 9 months of trying, But the build up to that was, well, let's just give it a go. And then we thought at that stage, it was like, well, you're gonna fall pregnant as soon as we try. And it was like, well, no, that didn't happen at all. And it doesn't always go that way. And the majority of people I know, apart from my oldest brother, who can just, I don't know, breathe on someone and they get pregnant.
That really
They had their first
a miracle, some would say.
well, I don't know. I was trying to use another analogy there, but as I'm not the best wordsmith, as you well know. I get sayings wrong all it's water off a duck's back or water of a hair of the dog's back or something like that.
Hair of the dog's back. Is it hair of the dog when you have a drink after a night of drinking? Hair of the dog. And water off a duck's back means it doesn't matter.
Water for duck's back and hair of the dog. I used to always get those two mixed up and just merge them. But yeah, I think just going back to the point of around, did I always want a child? It's hard to say. I think I was just in that mindset of like, I was so aloof with the idea of it, of like, oh, what does that mean? And what implications is it going to have on my life? And yes, I'll go ahead with it because I know other people that have had kids and they're fine and stuff. Like, I never went, and again, going back to that social media, I never went, yes, this is going to be the best decision that we've ever made. And me and Sam never sort of like embraced over the idea that we were going to have a child and all this. It was like, should we try? Sure, why not?
But you must have talked about it before then.
No, really. Honestly.
Really?
Again, 100%. Like, we never, like, there was, you maybe like every 6 months threw out a comment around, do we want kids in the future? Like, but that was always like future, and the future was always in my head like 5-10 years off.
The future is this mystic being from like you when you're 100 years
so
old.
far away. It's so detached from where you are now, and there's a reason for that. It's because you don't want to think about it. You don't want to go, oh, I don't want to deal with that. So it was always the case. And then I remember again, it's all just coming flooding back to me. But we were there in bed, and it was like, should we? It was like, we can. As chill as that. It was never like, oh no, what about this and what about that? And we just went, we'll just do it and see what happens. And that's what we did. And it's the best decision that we ever made. But we never sat down and had an honest conversation around it and said, well, this is a big decision. I knew I loved her to pieces, right? We've been together 5.5 years, and I was never ever going to see myself with anyone else. And it was like, I'm going to do this. If I'm going to do this, I'll do it with you. There's no question, no doubt about it. It was just in my head, I was never in a headspace where I went, yes, this is categorically what I want. And yes, we're doing it. It was just, why not? But maybe that's me. Maybe that's not a true reflection of, and I wouldn't advise, again, there's no advice here, but probably we should have sat down a little bit more and had a conversation. Would it have changed anything? No. Would it have delayed things? Maybe. But I think with these sort of things, it's just the right person, the right time, and we knew that it was the right thing to do. So
it's a testament to your relationship, though, isn't it? Right, because you are both fairly chill, low maintenance people, and that's sort of how you seemingly make decisions. So, as you said, although that's not everyone's experience, it's yours because that's sort of what your relationship is like. And I think all power to you with stuff like that. And again, I think coming from a position where it's like if you have 100% confidence in your partner, I feel that would make those conversations so much easier. Like, do you know what, like?
I think you're bang on.
And I'm not saying that loads of people don't, but maybe I am saying that I do believe that some people do have kids to paper over the cracks sometimes, and you're just like, well, this is, or they. There are niggling doubts in the back of their head, but I think if you go into this with 110%, like, this is the person I love, and you never know what the future holds, but in that in that moment, then I think it makes those conversations easier, right? It seems less apprehensive.
Absolutely. I think if I made the decision, I went, can I see myself? Because if I looked at other people's relationships, I go, this would be a really horrible thing to say, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I look at some people and go, you shouldn't probably have a kid because I know what their relationship is like. They're toxic, they're abusive, they hate each other, they've broken up 15 times, they've got back
Whoa,
together,
whoa, whoa! Yeah,
all of
we've
this
only
sort of
broken
stuff.
up 10 times. Okay, the rest of it is true.
Yeah, sorry. I forget. I know you, and you know
Yeah.
me. No, but but you know people like that, right? You know people that are you just basically they love that moment. They love being in that situation, and then they chuck a kid in it, and you're like, come on. Maybe you should have sat down and had a conversation.
Mm.
But if I was to sit down and go, can I see a reason not to have a child with Sam? Well, no, I can't see a fundamental. I can't see a fundamental reason why we wouldn't. She's got her head screwed on. She's intelligent. I love her. All of these pieces. We've been together a long time, and I think you're absolutely right. It's a testament to the relationship to say, oh, actually, we can make those sort of decisions without having to really drill down into the fine detail because we both know each other and we're both comfortable with each other. And
But how does that relate to having another child? Which I'm not in that position, so I can't comment. But it's all well and good having that sort of first initiative and saying, "Should we have one child?" But was it easier for you to have that second conversation, say, or did you go into the first one knowing you'd probably have to or want to?
right, no, the first one was just again, me and Sam tend to live in the moment. So after we had Zach, and again, there is part of this which we will definitely talk around in another episode around the actual birthing stories of both yours and mine. After, long story short, Zach had obviously a traumatic birth, and after Zach's birth, we wouldn't put off ever having another child, right? Because it was a couple of years of emotional damage there that you can never get over, especially from Sam's perspective, right? It was horrible for Sam. And we thought that we'd never have another child. But then, similar to what you were saying earlier around putting someone else's needs above your own, Sam was like, well, I'm so scared of having another child. However, I don't want Zach to grow up without a sibling, knowing that she's got siblings, knowing that I've got brothers and how close we are. She doesn't want to she put Zach's needs ahead of her own and wanted a sibling more for Zach than she did the fear of not having another child, right? If that makes sense. I think, again, not the best at wedding stuff. But having a second child at that stage, we knew it was the right thing to do. There was conversations around it, just purely based on our experience of the first child, and giving Zach a sibling is without a doubt just seeing them together. There's nothing again very cliche. There's nothing better than sitting back, you and your partner on the sofa and just seeing your children interact and like playing. Right, that's something that we can sit down and say we absolutely made the right decision. I can categorically say the pin stops there or whatever. It stops.
The buck stops there.
The buck stops there. Right. Sorry. Yeah. Jesus.
God. Hopefully you don't post this on LinkedIn because you're getting sacked.
Yeah, you can categorically say the buck stops there. 2 is plenty. And the jump between, for me personally, the jump from 0 to 1 was a piece of piss. Because you outnumber the children, right? And you can still both. If someone wants to go out and get drunk, that's fine. If someone wants to you want to get a babysitter and go out for dinner, that's fine. All of these things. When you've got 2, it's slightly different. Then you're in a situation. It's 1-to-1, and things aren't as simple. And when you're going out, and when Sam has to go out, and I'm at work or whatever, so much stuff you have to factor in that you don't have to factor in when you have one. So and it puts me off, categorically puts me off ever having another child. I sit here right now and think, how do people have more than 2? Because that, and again, I don't want to scare people. I've got 2 older brothers, right? And it was amazing growing up with them. Had its ups and that dog again. Had its ups and downs, right? But at the end of the day, we're good friends now, and I think it's one of those things is that I'd love to be able to give Zach that, but there is no. I get so stressed at times juggling work and being a dad and stuff like that that I think you just have to put at some stage I have to put my own needs ahead of that.
Mm.
I think.
It's I think it's such a personal choice. It's such a personal because I know some people who want 3, 4 kids. I genuinely know those people, and it's like, you know what, good for you, man, because you must just love it. You must absolutely love it, and good for you. I do think what it's given me, and we can use this as a wrap up discussion, but what it's given me is a newfound respect, not only for my parents, but for single parents. Like I have, like it was
Absolutely.
something like I think I was like 3 days in, and I was like, how the hell does a single parent do this? Like I sat there and generally just stared at a wall for about half an hour because I was like, it blew my mind how much that must take out of you, and how much like you think the world is on your shoulders.
We got you're absolutely my mum. Sorry, burp there. My mum
I
was a
thought you were
single
choking
parent.
up because you were being emotional, but that wasn't it.
No. It's the heartburn coming out. My mum was a single parent, and she had what I was like as a child, right?
Yes.
It was a bit of a loose cannon. My oldest brother, even worse. And fortunately, you had a calm brother in the middle who, again, still doesn't make it any easier. The fact that a single parent has to bring up three. I think we're due to wrap this up because my daughter's just broken through. Hey, do you mind just grabbing her, just wrapping up this podcast?
I love that. Do you know what? Oscar is literally says we have a glass door. Oscar was just teetered down the outside of it and saw me, and I was like, "Oh God, he's going to come in." So it's literally happening at the
You
same.
just can't stop it. You can't stop it. And with work, like if the kids are off and they're not at preschool, whatever like that, sometimes they come and I have to basically say, look, little disclaimer: if my kids come bursting through this door and start screaming any second now, I do apologize. And do you know the icebreaker
Oh,
that
it's brilliant.
I get is,
It's brilliant.
don't worry, my kids are going to do the same. It's an absolute nightmare. How old are your kids? And you're like, oh my god, they understand.
Unless
They
they
know what
hate
it's
kids,
like.
and then they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah, they better not.
yeah, they better not."
Deadpan.
Meeting over, if so. Yeah.
They better not.
Um, no. Well, I think this has been a very genuinely podcast aside. This is stuff we haven't even talked about between ourselves. So
This is good, isn't it?
so
It's
either
good.
represents that we're terrible friends, or that there's a lot of relationships out there like that. So
Didn't even talk about Christmas, mate, but we'll save that for the next one.
yeah, I really wanted to, but we'll do it. We'll do it in a week or two.
All right.
Cool.
Good
I did a
stuff.
very official intro. Did you want to do a very official outro?
No, just, thank you for listening to the Bang Average Parents podcast, and whatever it is going to be next time, probably change between now and then. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned. And we've got lots of good content to go through and talk about. And I hope there are some good things that you can take away from today.